So chapter 6, 6 of Exodus. I think before we start, I'm going to go to my TV. I agree. Good. Before we begin, let me hear everybody remember about the 10 plagues. Anything, when somebody mentions the 10 plagues, what comes into your mind? Mike, first thing. Hmm? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Editor. Frogs. Graham. Koshua. Editor. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then it. Husband kukufa. Okay. Mr. Kinyanji.
What comes to mind when remember the 10 plagues?
Mm-hmm.
One is punishment by God.
Mm-hmm.
By it. But an economist cannot get the plague of the flood, the fleas. The fleas.
I don't know.
The insects that insects that are biting.
Actually, let's see if we can name all the 10 of those plagues. Number 1, frogs, of course, they're famous. Gnats. Mm-hmm. Number 3, darkness. Mm-hmm. Boils. 5, water blood. Mm-hmm. 6, firstborns. Mm-hmm. 7, maji imefanya nini? Boil imesema locust. Mm-hmm. Hail Mary. Mm-hmm.
Was that him? Hey, was it?
Nataka kusema ndio ndo usijue, lakini hail ilikuwa number 9. Ya kwanza Hiyo number 9, number 10 ya mwisho na iko different, no? One more. Hiyo side ya Israel haikuwa nayo, walikuwa naishi darkness. Good. Let's read and see how this story goes. So remember in chapter 5, it ends with Moses actually very sad, very angry at God that he is not doing, God has let him down. Basically, that's what he's saying. Look at verse 23, from verse 22. This is chapter 5 from verse 22 and 23. Then Moses went back to the Lord and protested. Why have you brought all this trouble on your people, Lord? Why did you send me? Ever since I came to Pharaoh as your spokesman, he has been even more brutal to your people, and you have done nothing to rescue them. So Moses is saying, God, you've let me down. I thought we had this together. Why you act? They need to show them your power. They need to see it. So chapter 6 is now where God speaks and responds to that. I think we did actually chapter 6 because we finished. Remember the story that was talking about Abraham's father and brothers and mother. Remember that one? Yes. Yeah, we finished that one. Good. So we are moving. We are in chapter 7. Good. Yeah, moving. So chapter 7 now. Then the Lord said to Moses, pay close attention to this. I will make you seem like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet. So God is, remember, before Moses comes to Pharaoh, he was feeling a nobody. But God is telling him, now I'm going to make you someone. You'll be like God to Pharaoh. So Pharaoh hajakuona hivyo bado, but I'm transforming you from just a nobody to where Pharaoh thinks that you are a God. And your brother Aaron will be your prophet. So because this God is so high, he can't deal directly with this human being called Pharaoh. You have to have somebody to go and talk on your behalf, Moses. So Aaron will be the one talking on your behalf to Pharaoh. And then something changes here that we maybe in the movies we saw the movies, maybe we didn't remember it that way. For example, let me ask this question. Somebody described to me the first miracle Moses did before Pharaoh. We're going to read it actually, but just somebody describe it offered. Bila alifika mbele ya Pharaoh kuna kitu alifanya. Nyoka. So Moses amefika mbele ya Pharaoh alafu hakuna anything tricky, ni hivyo tu vile unajua tu. Let's read and see if kama ni hivyo. There's something I think even for me yeah. Hiyo fimbo ni ya nani ilikuwa? Yeah. Remember Moses alitoka na huko. There's even a third layer to that story. Yeah, hold on. Tell Aaron everything I command you, and Aaron must command Pharaoh to let the people of Israel leave his country. So the default system ya communication ni God tells Moses, Moses tells Aaron, Aaron tells Pharaoh. Because Moses is this high person, you can't deal with a mere person like Pharaoh. And I read also somewhere that actually Aaron was 83 years by the time he died. And that was the last year before they got into Canaan. So he was 3 years older than Moses. Miriam was the oldest. She was probably 6 years older than Moses. Okay. But I will make Pharaoh's heart stubborn so I can multiply my miraculous signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. Now, sometimes when we read this story, we don't know what Moses was dealing with. When Moses was afraid to come to Egypt, we keep thinking, yeah, so you have God, why are you afraid? But the concept of God in Egypt was quite something. It was a force that you had to reckon. Verse 4, even then Pharaoh will refuse to listen to you, so I'll bring down my fist on Egypt, then I'll rescue my forces, my people, the Israelites from the land of Egypt, with great acts of judgment. That is very important. So this whole thing is more than just God rescuing Israel from Egypt. He's actually punishing, judging Egypt. But he's not judging human beings in Egypt. He's judging the gods in Egypt. Um, we moved from chapter 6 in chapter 7. Kuna mahali TV haioni tena. Oh, pole. Pole. Exodus 12:12 speaks about the judgment this way. On that night, I will pass through the land of Egypt. This is the last plague, and strike down every firstborn son and firstborn male animal in the land of Egypt. I will execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt, for I am the Lord. So it was judgment on the gods of Egypt. Notice, gods. When Moses comes and tells the children of Israel, these are 10 commandments, the first commandment is any other god. God is coming counterculturally to tell people every other culture have gods, but for you, Israel, the Lord your God is one. That was rare in that time. For you to have just one God, you are poor. You need to have many gods so that every God is in charge of something. But if you look at the concept of what they thought deities looked like, it was just a projection of human. Ni men tu wamekuwa glorified because, like in Egypt, there were male and female god and goddesses. So there were gods. Any god you remember from Egypt when you've had any name of a god in Egypt? See Pharaoh. Pharaoh was a god, but we'll come to that later. Any god in huyu ni mkale fake, ule ni mkale kidogo. God kwa kikale anaitwa Asis. Okay. One of the goddesses in Egypt was Isis. Some people claim it was Isis. Or Sunbringer. Okay. That is a goddess. Let's see some things actually, so that we understand when God is saying he's judging Egypt, we know what he's judging, these gods. And basically, spiritually, there was a force behind this worship, this religion, but mostly it was powered by demons and the devil because it was not of the true God. So God is judging the demons and the devil. Basically, I don't know if it's the devil in the sense of final judgment, but he's saying you claim to be gods and you are not. You are not. You are lying to people that you're gods. That's the judgment at the end of this story. Let's look at a few things about worship, ancient Egypt, worship in ancient Egypt. So the main centers of worship in ancient Egypt were, you've heard of these names, Heliopolis, where the Heliopolitan, Enid arose and whose primary god was Ra, is one of the gods that is famous. There was another center called Hermopolis. It was for this god, and then there was Memphis. There's a city in the US called Memphis. It's an Egyptian name, whose theology proclaimed that God, as the world's creator. Thebes, the place of worship of Ammon, the god of the city in Thebes. And then this is the concept. These are the concepts behind the worship in Egypt. They had preceded man on earth. So the gods and goddesses had preceded man on earth and had great power that men could never equal. However, some gods did have well-defined functions. So it was not one god, different gods, different functions. Thoth was the protector of the sciences. Montu, a warrior god, and like those are examples. And usually each god was linked to the city where his temple was located. Remember, in the book of Acts, where we are talking about Diana, which city was the custodian of Diana? Where there was a riot, remember, in the book of Acts? Yes, Ephesus. So Diana is a goddess, and people who have sisters like me who are called Diana, our mothers didn't know any better. The ancient Egyptians believed that the world's fate depended on the mood of the gods. So huyo god akiamka vibaya hiyo siku, that's why you have disasters. So disasters were said, today our wase wako na mood mbaya, we need to do something to appease them. So sacrifice something of value to you, and sometimes that God would ask for your children, you give them your children so that they are happy, wanyamaze waache kutusumbua. But they were petty to me. Pharaoh, like a living god, was the link between men and the gods who claimed the cosmic order, without which would return the original chaos. So these gods were basically the ones who were sustaining order in the universe, and if they were not there, the world would go back to chaos where it was. According to them, it was out of chaos that it was created by, I think, one of the gods called naitwaje hiyo creator god tumesoma hapa. Okay, tuendelea. Consequently, the best possible relationships had to be maintained with them. Some words are missing there. That was the role of Pharaoh. So Pharaoh's place was, please make sure that the gods are happy. That is your role on earth. So you are a representative of gods on earth, and you are a representative of human beings to the gods. Your role is to ensure that they are happy. But also sometimes he was considered as a god on earth, living as Horus, god Horus. He was the only one who could come into direct contact with the gods in the privacy of the temple. So Pharaoh peke yake. So this is the person that Moses is dealing with. So it's not just a king or a president. The other kings and presidents around our walikuwa ni watu bure, sababu they had priests and other ways of getting to their gods. Despite the diversity of gods, there was a tendency to henotheism, that is to recognize a unique deity in each place without excluding the existence and worship of gods from other sites. So hizi ilikuwanga ni local gods. For example, kama huyo Diana alikuwa ni wa Ephesus, you could still worship other gods, but you could still have other gods in the background, but the main one that time is Diana in Ephesus. Horus, the rising sun, followed by Ra, the sun from Heliopolis, will be the most prominent at all times, depending on the city or hegemonic norm. So either Horus or Ra.
So yeah, the rice called Ra.
No, it's not from Egypt. When Thebes kings belonged to the same dynasty as these are dynasts, Ammon and the god of Thebes came to be regarded as a national deity for Egypt. Mainly when linked with Ra, and under the name Amun-Ra, was worshipped in nearly every Egyptian city. So Amun-Ra at one point was the most popular national god, but every town basically still had their own god. Ancient Egyptian, I'll show you that picture later. Then there's a concept of monotheism they had. They say that this is the worship of one god. There was a revolution by a pharaoh called Akhenaton that generated that some, I think I copied wrongly, the first monotheism, recognition of a single god in history. So there was a point in Egyptian history where they recognized one god, and that did not last long. During prehistoric times, the Egyptians divinized natural phenomena for which they did not know the reason, some plants and certain animals for their qualities or customs. So they got ideas from animals and plants, and their gods reflect that. So they are gods that can have a head of a hawk or a head of a cat. Yeah, ibis. Later, the gods take human form, which is anthropomorphism, and some retain zoomorphic. So they remain whole cat or something like that.
So an example is the jackal that the Egyptians saw prowling around the burials in the desert sand for what was considered a protective deity of cemeteries. So jackals around, later they come up with a god called God Anubis, who had a jackal's head, and his role was to protect the dead. You can see how it is related. Yeah. The falcon, deified by its flight ability, will become Horus with a falcon's head.
That was a part of the Eye of Horus.
Yes, because the strength of the falcon is the eye. At Heliopolis, the bird Bennu became famous, called phoenix by the Greeks, which, according to the legend, burned on a pyre and was reborn from its ashes.
And there's a bird, Phoenix bird, which burns itself and then reforms again.
You know, in the legend.
Whether or not it's true, but it burns itself completely and forms again its own.
Amazing. The cat, the beetle, the sparrowhawk, etc. were worshipped in other places. And at Memphis, the sacred animal was the Apis bull. The bull had to be black with a triangular white spot on the forehead, double tail hairs, and other signs only known to the priests. These gods did not live alone since the evolution of religious beliefs incorporated the concept of family. So their gods had family. They were married and could have children. And thus they formed triads, trinities, formed by a god, wife, and son. So the Trinity are Christianly different. You see, wife, God, wife, and son. So the triads, their concept of triad is, the triad is established based on the structure, father, mother, and son. It seems to obey the need to group local gods around the primary god, brings religion closer to the simple people to whom the theological systems were extremely complex. It seems that this system started in the Middle Kingdom. The triad in Kama, there was the Osirian triad, which is Osiris, Isis, and Horus. So Osiris is the father, Isis is the mother, and Horus the son.
There's a car called is it the same?
That's the name actually. It's a goddess. Yes, a goddess.
Like a pine and diamonds. They're not a pine and.
Actually, there are some names that people use and you don't know where they came from, but
Isis should be the best.
yes, the goddess. That's the name of it after the goddess. The Theban triad, that is Amun, like Amun-Ra, Mut, and Junsu. Memphite triad, Ta, Sekhmet, and Nefertem. The Edfu triad, Horus, Hathor, and Harsomtus. Elephantine triad, Num, Satis, Anukis. Dendera's triad, Horus, Hathor, and Ak. You can see there's this place where is the sun, but here down here is the father. Getting the point? So near mixed and complex, sometimes they kill each other, these gods. It's just they were more petty than human beings. Let's look at a few of the gods and see what they for. Ra was called the god of the sun. Ra is one of the most important deities in ancient Egypt mythology and is considered the god of the sun, creation, and life. He was worshipped as the king of all the gods and was often depicted as a man with a falcon head wearing sun disk on his head. Let me see if we have a photo ya huyo Amun-Ra. Ni nani anaitwaje huyo? You can see the head. Unaona? Okay. So huyo msee ndio huyo anakuwa described kama he was worshipped as the king of all the gods and was often depicted as a man with a falcon head wearing a sun disk on his head. According to Egyptian mythology, Ra created himself out of chaos and then created everything else.
Okay, so where did the chaos come from?
There was something, this is the bottom line. There was something out of that chaotic something he created himself. So he didn't begin from nil like the God of the Bible. God was there. He's never been there. And then he created everything else from nothing. He traveled across the sky in a boat during he traveled across the sky in a boat during the day, so that's the sun. And at night he traveled through the underworld where he battled the forces of darkness. So when the sun goes down, Ra goes with it and it goes to fight down underground battles. And then in the morning again, aye. Ra was also believed to have the power to give life and to heal, and he was often invoked in spells and prayers for these purposes. He was associated with the concept of Ma'at, which represented order and balance in the universe. Remember, there's a similar concept in Japanese. Inaitwa ile circle inakuanga kwa nini? Yin yang. Hiyo. Balance in the universe. Yin yang. Yeah.
That's Japan.
Japanese. Ra was worshipped throughout ancient Egyptian history, and many temples were dedicated to him. His cult center was located in Heliopolis, where large temple complex was built in his honor. Despite his immense popularity, Ra's importance declined as the other gods and goddesses emerged. So walipata compare. Nevertheless, his legacy lives on and he remains a beloved figure in modern Egyptian culture. Modern. So hakuenda. Osiris. Osiris one of the most prominent gods in ancient Egyptian and is often associated with the afterlife and concept of resurrection. He was believed to be the god of death as well as the god of fertility and irrigation. According to Egyptian mythology, Osiris was murdered by his jealous brothers, Set, who dismembered his body and scattered the pieces throughout the land. However, Osiris' wife Isis, so bibi yake ndio, could locate and reassemble the parts, and Osiris was restored to life. As a result of his resurrection, Osiris became associated with the concept of eternal life and was believed to preside over the afterlife. He was often depicted as a mummified pharaoh with his arms crossed over his chest. So if you've seen a pharaoh, most of the pharaoh things you've seen, mummified in the picture wheel, holding the crook and flail symbolizing his power. Temples were nini to him, and then interesting. The ancient Egyptian believed that to reach the afterlife, they had to undergo tests and trials, and that their heart would be weighed against a feather of truth.
Very nice. Their heart is very against the feather. Something very light, they have to be without any violence.
Yes, the hearts had to be lighter than the feather. Those who passed the test could enter the afterlife and live forever with Osiris. Even today, Osiris remains an important figure in Egyptian mythology and culture, and this story continues to inspire people worldwide. Movies, I think there are movies about these stories. Horus, god of goodness and light. He was believed to be the god of goodness and light and was associated with protection and healing. So you can see gods are given different roles. If you want healing, you don't pray to Osiris, you pray to Horus. So you had to have a relationship na huyu mwingine pia una maintain. And if there's a disaster, if it's a disaster concerning agriculture, mjapata nini vizuri, you go to the god in charge of agriculture and try to do what they'll need for you to have the harvest. Set was the god of war. Sometimes it can be Seth or Set. So if you're going to war as Egyptians, you're going to fight Israelis, you meet with this god and they tell you, the priest of this god tells you what you need to do so that you'll be able to have victory. He was worshipped as the god of war, chaos, and storms, and was often depicted as a fearsome creature with the head of an unknown animal. Unknown. Then there's this god, this is one of the famous ones also, Anubis, god of the dead and mummification. Karibu sana. Amun was the god of the air. Anun was originally a minor god associated with fertility and the creation of life. Still, his importance grew over time as he was merged with other gods, including Ra and Atum. So hao ndio magods wa Egypt. Think, let me see if tuangalie tu Isis, huyo Isis mmoja sababu hiyo watu wanamjua. The names of the goddesses sound like Kikale. Yeah, Isis. Isis was a goddess of ancient Egyptian mythology whose worship spread throughout the Roman Empire. Today, it is still adored by many movements and religions. Initially, she was idealized as the ideal mother, wife, mother of nature. So when sometimes people say mother nature, ni nani? And magic. So remember when these magicians in Egypt are performing miracles, the goddess behind them ni Isis, god of magic. Assis, that is Assis, not Isis. That is Assis. You see Isis. One is Kalenjin, one is Egyptian. In turn, she was the patron saint of enslaved people, sinners, artisans, and the oppressed. But she also listened to the prayers of the aristocrats and leaders. She was also known as the protector of the dead and the goddess of children. I bring this up so that you remember the story of Mary. Remember Mary? So they wanted to replace Isis with Mary. Yes. So I think you missed. There was a session we did on that was on Mary in Catholic. Remember the patron saint of what Africa. That's all the things that Mary is. The Catholics claim is what Isis was. Hey, you. Mnafikirianga watu wanachoose majina aje? Yeah, so ndio hivyo. This is Isis, and then the name Isis means throne, which is why the crown she wears represents the throne as an embodiment of the power of Pharaoh. The most important temples in his honor were in her honor. Ziko Beit and Agar and the island of Fire. In the myth, Isis was the first daughter of Geb, the god of earth, and Nut, the goddess of heaven. Nut. She married her brother Osiris and conceived Horus with him. The sacred image of Isis with Horus in her arms as a child became a model for the Christianity of Mary carrying Jesus in her arms. Catholics, they are not shy. They were trying to take pagan things and look for a Christian thing to represent it. So see, it was not intentional. As Isis. You're getting the point. So you're into Isis. Let me see if we have those. So chat kama hii. There are some other gods, many gods, actually very, very many. Now you can see the heads are the ones that reveal something different. Umeona Set, Amun, Thoth, Ptah ndio wa mwisho huko. So ni wengi hivi bado. Hiyo ni list kidogo. There are many. It depends on what they are gods of. Especially the goddesses ndio wako na hiyo. Sikumbuki hata naitwaje. Inaweza kuwa ndio. So ndio hivi, another table in the main, these are the main ones. These 7 are the ones that are considered main. Isis is the only lady in this story. Isis ndio yako hapo katikati. So ni Isis peke yake amebeba hiyo kitu hapo chini, and then this is also the inspiration ya rosary. Yes, you can see where our Catholic beliefs came from. Now this kitu amebeba, you put it on a chain and then it becomes you not whatever it is in Egypt, now it becomes, you put a cross, then it has some magical powers. I think we did this one, Osiris. Who is god of fertility? Yeah, infertility. In crops matured. And then there's something protruding from the cloth, which is fertility. Pta. Kuna god of vegetation kama huyo mwingine. Ako pia na mahindi. But kuna difference ukiangalia kama crocodile, water and vegetation. God of wisdom and science, probably this is the one who inspired the pyramids, because it's scientific, the scientific architecture yenye ilifanyika hapo. Okay, yeah, so interesting story. One warning: Egyptian powers, I've been saying this again and again, they are a force in this world to be reckoned. Don't try these things at home. Don't try to even try and know more than what you've known. That is enough. Yes, because I keep saying,
like when I see an Egyptian piece of sacred on top of the ridge of the church.
No. For us here, it doesn't matter. Yeah. What I'm saying is, don't look for an Egyptian to explain to you these things and try to teach you what to do in order to tap into that power, if I can say it that way. One of our pastors from here, or not one of our pastors, our youth pastor when I was a youth, went to Egypt. She came back. She believed she was the goddess of the Nile, and she had power to prove she is. She could get people to sleep with her who don't want to. Yep. So Egypt usirudi tena. It's not for going back.
They still have, as you mentioned, the gods of Egypt. They still have profound, like you mentioned, the Catholics and Protestants. They still have some profound influence on man's development. Maybe like Africa, anyway, or other parts of the world. Is it likely that those gods still have some power?
They do, and it's because of demons. Behind those powers, are demons. Like every other false religion, whatever power they have, if it's not of God, it is of the devil. The Bible doesn't deny that the kingdom of darkness does not have power. They have power, but not limitless. And that's what we're going to see even in this, when you're looking at the plagues. They have some power, but it's also...
So they still have profound effect on man.
No. Those who are subscribing to their religion.
But I mean, we have Christians who come visiting us. Some of them are not Christians.
Remember, not necessarily. Actually, most Egyptians are Muslims.
Well, not necessarily. They have some that are Egyptians and they're not Muslims.
And those are few.
And a small percentage will be Christian.
Yes, you're right. You're right. So you can see, then you can't group all Egyptians. When you see an Egyptian, you say, yeah. Huyu anaitwaje yule Mosala. You can even Stephen you.
Not all of them are open to the public, but I hear that you cannot take even a pen like this from if you manage to come out with it and come all the way to the south side of Africa to Eldoret, the gods will want it. They say that they still that power that what belongs to them cannot be settled. That's property of that those gods of the Pharaoh.
Yeah. Just a small correction. Actually, very few.
Anything from there,
Mhm.
there's punishment taken from the tools of that because they believe they are living and they can form it up until whatever it is and take it back. Otherwise, whatever it is.
That's what I used to think. Actually, I used to think that. I used to think that the pyramids are burial grounds. Actually, there are no mummies in the pyramids.
They are no mummies.
Imagine.
Where are they?
Hi, go find out.
Egyptians are there now.
They are not the original ones.
They went to the other one.
Yeah.
They went to the other one they talked about.
No.
What are they?
Recently is when people were able to get into the pyramids. There's no pyramid called that one. That was a pharaoh, and his mummy was not found in a pyramid. No, there's a mummy for him. There's a mummy, but it's not in the pyramid. That's another story. Let's continue this. Okay. So in verse 4 of Exodus chapter 7, it was about the great acts of judgment on the gods of Israel, or the gods of Egypt. So one concept that we need to change is that these miracles, the way we were remembering the plagues, it was just like, God just wants to show his power, then leave. It was judgment. So the children of the Egyptians who were present during that time had to think otherwise, had to have a new way of looking at their gods after what the God of Israelites had done to them. Okay? So, in the eyes of a thinking Egyptian of that time, these gods were not the same after they meet this God of the Israelites, because he had leveled all of them. So, when we're looking at the 10 plagues now, look at how the judgments will be happening. So, he'll be judging the God of the water, the God of agriculture. Are we together? Yes. Now that's the concept. Remember, like we said from Hebrew, this Exodus chapter 12, verse 12, it was judgment. Again, let's read that one, the last part. I'll execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt, for I am the Lord. Sawa. Even Pharaoh was a god. He was judged. Remember the place he was Horus in the flesh. Okay. All right, let's continue to verse 5. Look, there are many of your people in the land, in chapter 5, chapter 7. When I raise my powerful hand and bring out the Israelites, the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So the Egyptians are going to encounter a God they've never encountered, who is powerful than any other God, and he'll do things to confirm that he's that powerful. So Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded them. Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron was 83 when they made their demands to Pharaoh. So these are octogenarians wenye wameenda kuface Pharaoh. Ni wazee 80 na 83. The younger one is the God, the older one is the prophet. So when oh, maybe they're late. Verse 3, verse 1.
Then the Lord said to Moses, pay close attention to this. I will make you seem like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet.
So Aaron and Moses did that, and then verse 8, then Moses and Aaron, Pharaoh will demand, so God is telling them already what will happen. Pharaoh will demand, show me a miracle. When he does this, say to Aaron, take your staff and throw it down in front of Pharaoh, and it will become, this is what I was intending to say. Whose stick became a snake? I read again this verse. Ah. So, verse 10, so Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and did what the Lord had commanded them. And Aaron threw down. How did you grow up in Sunday school knowing?
We need to. So Aaron and Moses were praying and he was Aaron
I used
In the burning bush, it was
Moses' stuff.
another one.
Yes. Remember that also this is the thinking. In our thinking, we think that is the same stuff. It became God's stuff. Now this is the same one that they're coming to Egypt with. But remember the thing about that stick was for the children of Israel. Now when Moses is leading the children of Israel, he's the one that when he lifts it, that's when the waters part. Yeah, Moses. See Aaron. But when they're dealing with Pharaoh, it is Aaron's staff.
So it wasn't property of Moses or Aaron, it was for the children of Israel.
No. There are two staffs. We are together?
But was Aaron a shepherd?
Aaron was older.
No, but an old man. See, not necessarily. They have not even said a shepherd staff. But remember, Moses had his own, and the reason God told him in the burning bush incident to throw it down is because he also wanted a miracle to confirm that God, what you're telling me, you have power to execute what you're telling me to do. Are you together? And then that same stick is the one that when Moses went to the children of Israel, when he got to Egypt, he told them is the one that is the stuff that he was using to perform miracles when he was among the children of Israel. But when they're dealing with Pharaoh, it is Aaron's staff.
Why did I get this concept that it was Moses' rod that God told Moses to put the rod down? Since Sunday school or whatever.
The burning bush. The burning bush.
Not burning bush.
Uh-huh.
The way I had always gotten it from the story of Moses and Egypt.
Mhm.
Moses was sent to the Egyptians.
To Pharaoh.
It is him the Lord told to put his stick down and it became a serpent and the Egyptians. I've always thought that's
Yes.
the Lord.
So those are two Bibles. There is the Bible here, I've had it said, and this one. It's
Because
written.
what they are also reading-
Maybe is it mine only? Verse 10? Maybe it could
If you
be.
told that to primary school, nursery, Sunday school, nursery school, secondary school,
Even movies, probably.
even movies that you see, it's him who is the Lord.
Somebody confirm verse 10. Verse 10 yenu hapo? Ni Aaron.
It's Aaron.
Hata yako mstari
It says it's Aaron. I don't know that it is Aaron. Does everybody have a tendency of thinking it was Moses?
ndio nimesema now you're catching up na sisi. That's what we say.
Saying you're fighting yourself, so still
Yeah. So they went to Pharaoh, did what the Lord had commanded them. Aaron threw down his staff before Pharaoh and his officials, and it became a serpent. That is, I think, something you need to unlearn and add new data and form properly.
And why is the teaching received? Aaron was not very well taught to us when we were young.
Mhm.
Moses was more.
He was the hero. Moses was the hero of the story.
Pictures I've seen, it's Moses. So
I-
Aaron was a god,
No,
given the status of a god as a prophet.
Pharaoh. They were a prophet to Pharaoh.
You said about one was there's a place mentioned one was more like a god.
Moses was God, and
No,
Aaron was
God,
Pharaoh.
and
No,
Moses-
no,
The younger
reverse.
was a god,
Yes,
and the older was
the prophet.
the prophet.
To
Aaron
Pharaoh.
was a prophet to Pharaoh,
Yes,
and Moses was a god.
yes. So basically, God is telling Pharaoh, you think you're a human in flesh. I'll give somebody power to confirm, to show you that you are in nothing. Okay. So verse 11, then Pharaoh called in his own wise men and sorcerers. And these Egyptian magicians did the same thing with their magic. I think very few places would this be done at. Pharaoh was like, Aaron, I've seen this thing before. I've seen this even, maybe you probably learned it from our people here. So you are coming to, hey, come and show them. And notice it was not just one. They threw these magicians also, walitengeneza nyoka mingi. Wacha Aaron mmoja. Kila mtu yake maybe return to that.
I'm only wondering how it's allowed. when then Pharaoh called for the wise men, where was this contest of sorcerers, magicians, and whatever God people taking place? At his
Palace, yes.
Oh my God, and they don't want to go to say God.
Aye.
Because I'm imagining there was skill in magic, there were diviners, the sorcerers, wizards, jugglers, I don't know that one is. And they also, these magicians are the magicians who did similar things with their enchantments and secret arts.
Yes.
So I'm imagining people that find a big one in the dark. I mean,
Yes.
they're all kind of sorcerers.
According to the Jews, we have a saying 10 portions of witchcraft came down to earth. One went to Egypt, one was continued to all the people around the world.
So I'm wondering if there was that contest of those powerful people in terms of the powers they had.
Mm-hmm.
The ground how it was. The master you believe like both Batian and Lenana. Every other time they met, I think of that a lot of people, same standing in terms of the powers of the master. A stretch of land would be left whereby no vegetation could for a very long time. Even today, when we find that there's no vegetation, because those days were, they call them magicians of some guys,
Mhm.
the hours of the things. So
Okay.
I'm wondering when this context was taken, is why one of them that place is a desert.
I don't know. Hi, so acha tuendelee. They threw down their staffs, which also became serpents. But then, this is the difference. Aaron's staff swallowed up their. So this one snake of Aaron swallowed the other snake. So now these people don't have sticks, so they don't have staff. So Pharaoh's heart will go, yeah, Moses and Aaron, go out. He still refused to listen just as the Lord had predicted. Then the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is stubborn and he still refuses to let the people go. So go to Pharaoh in the morning. This is the first plague. As he goes down to the river. So it looks like in Egypt, Pharaoh and his family used to go to the river in the morning to wash. I don't know, maybe to worship or whatever they used to go and do. Remember, even Moses, Pharaoh's daughter alimpata akienda kuoga sijui kufanya nini asubuhi kwa river. Stand on the bank of the Nile and meet him there. Be sure to take along the staff that turned into a snake.
So which was that they are
Ni Aaron bado. When he's dealing with the Egyptians, ni staff ya Aaron. But in our minds, imekuanga ni maybe even kwa cartoon yenye picture ulichora ya Sunday school, Moses. He announced to him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has sent me to tell you, let my people go so they can worship me in the wilderness. Until now, you have refused to listen to him. So this is what the Lord says. I will show you that I am the Lord. Mimi ndio boss. Look, I'll strike the water of the Nile and with this staff in my hand, and the river will turn to blood. The fish in it will die and the river will stink. The Egyptians will not be able to drink any water from the Nile. Then the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron, take your staff and raise your hand over the waters of Egypt. All its rivers, canals, ponds, and all the reservoirs, turn all the water to blood. Everywhere in Egypt, the water will turn to blood. Even the water stored in wooden bowls and stone pots. So hata ile maji mlikuwa mmeweka kwa nyumba. Red, damu, si at red, si unafikiri it'll change color. Blood. Yes. So Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord commanded them. As Pharaoh and all of his officials watched, Aaron raised his staff and struck the water of the Nile. Suddenly the whole river not became red, turned. Yes. Najua tunafikirianga ni color ilichange kwa sababu kwa movie ni color. Ikiturn blood itaanza coagulate ama kufanya nini? Itongaje process. Au mse labda alienda kuosha uso. Now you are getting the point. Afadhali ya ng'ombe. The fish in the river died and the water became so foul smell that the Egyptians couldn't drink it. There was blood everywhere throughout the land of Egypt. But again, the magicians in Egypt used their magic and they too turned water into blood.
So which water was this that hadn't been turned into blood?
Yes, maybe pia waliantani hao sijui. But there was Moses. What you're doing, we also can do. Maybe their powers also could protect some waters from becoming blood. Wakatani ikakuwa blood. One thing I noticed they couldn't undo. Yes. Ishaenda imeenda. Yeah. That's what I noticed. They couldn't undo what they've done. They could just, for example, turn the water into blood, but they couldn't turn it back. They had to ask again Moses to do this. Moses to side. And let's finish this first plague and then stop here. He refused to listen to Moses. So they too turned water into blood, so Pharaoh's heart remained hard. Notice, this is what we keep on saying. People like Samanga, God hardened Pharaoh's heart. They too turned water into blood, so Pharaoh's heart remained hard. Yes. So ikonga tu ati haina reason ya kukua hard. Because he says, are you God kama watu wangu wanaweza fanya hivi? He refused to listen to Moses and Aaron just as the Lord had predicted. Pharaoh returned to his palace and put the whole thing out of his mind. And all the Egyptians dug along the riverbank to find drinking water, for they couldn't drink water from the Nile. So, at least along the banks, if you dig, it a sieve. Your process ya kusieve itaanza collect huku maji safi kidogo, or hiyo part ya water ya damu sijui inaitwaje, itapita hivyo ikuje huku. Yeah. Okay, and then 7 days passed from the time the Lord struck the Nile. So hii story ilikaa for 7 days ya damu. Hii ndio movie inaonyeshanga hivi kitu kaa hii, but hii ni maji bado iko red. So see hii. Sijui kama hiyo inaweza kuwa wapi ya blood. Hata hii bado. But you can imagine too. Just imagine for 7 days. This is not a cold place, so the blood si atitakaa ni hot, so na fish imekufa ndani. And this is the lifeline of Egypt. Everyone in Egypt used to live around the Nile. And you can see even the palace, ya Pharaoh, was not far from here. So whoever the god of water was judged. You can't even give your people water. Until Moses aingilia tena story. Let's finish there. At least there are some things you've learned from going slowly, reading these verses slowly. Mm-hmm.
God had a reason why he's speaking.
Yes.
And then I just realized he's so constant in our works, even with the Egyptians, the same thing works with us.
Mm-hmm.
How a God in life.
Mm-hmm.
To put something
Before God.
He will use that to show you that he's still God and that thing is not constant.
Yes.
So if it's your job,
Uh-huh.
he can allow you to use that job.
Na baada ya kufeed.
Yeah, and you realize that job was not.
Could we be having a God tunaita economy? Yeah. Si ndio? Tuna believing kwamba kama economy yako mood ya economy iko poa, vitu zitaenda poa. Hii mood ya economy kiharibika.
I think the US they kind of since the dollar is very strong, the economy usually thrives.
Bow to the dollar.
Yeah.
Very good point. I think the things we think will give us help, may God come and judge them, so that we know He is the Lord. Out of that experience, utafika mahali useme enyewe, I used to think this is all I need to live, ama this was what my life meant, but now since I've encountered God, this is God. Now even when you're reading the Psalms, they'll start making sense. So I've heard of your fame, mama, but now I've seen your acts. Kama vile nani anasema Job, after having an encounter with the true God, you come out of there. You are God. You are the Lord. You are the boss. So look at the other 9, and all those will be judgments. And remember the stories. The kind of summary we were looking at about the worship in ancient Egypt, the gods and what they were in charge of, the relationships thereof, so that even the firstborn dying, the last plague, was a judgment on Horus, who was the firstborn of Nisis. Yeah. So they were not random. That's one of the things I kept getting in the Bible. You read a story and you think it was random. God aliyekanisha tu mavitu. No. Even the creation story, on 6 days God created everything, and day 1, 2, 3, God was making the spaces, some of the foundations for the things. And then day 4, 5, 6, he was populating those spaces. So kama day 6 aliumba nini? Mnakumbuka? Animals and man. So kiruka day 3 is when he made land where animals and man will live. So.
I have something
Mm-hmm.
all these deaths were the past.
Mm-hmm.
Reflecting back, in our first part, I've had it again before in the times of the Passover,
Mm-hmm.
when the Israelites, not Israel, where the Israelites were told to keep a lamb and apply the blood on the edges of the lintel of their houses.
Mm-hmm.
And the angel of death would come and pass by, so that they wouldn't be found dead in their homes.
Mm-hmm.
And those ones who did not apply that measure,
Mhm.
were firstborns.
Right.
All of them. What is this matter of the firstborn that is in the place of Egypt and the matters in the Israel, the firstborn?
Yeah.
Every time is a matter of God coming to deal for a God. So they are to take a living person as the first or the eldest.
Think when we look at the last plague, your firstborns, short answer ni. Actually, the last plague is when God asked Israelites to do something. All these other 9 ones, Israelites were just watching from a distance. The 10th one is when it involved them.
The Israelites.
Yes, by telling them you need to apply that blood.
The day for the Egyptians.
The same day, the Egyptians' firstborn died, the same day of the Passover.
Was the Passover time.
Yes.
So this power of death had an influence all the way to the Israelites.
Even an Israelite who could not put the blood
The
and
Israelites then was still in Egypt.
Yes.
Instead of observing the Passover right from Egypt.
That was the first Passover.
The first Passover.
That one.
So when that was happening,
Even the name Passover means the angel of death passed over our house.
so that
because
is to
of the
say
blood.
they learned that from Egypt before they went back to the Passover.
It was the first day, actually, that was their liberation day. That Passover, it was at night. The following day, that's when they left Egypt.
Okay.
The following day. And that story is ahead, so to see the Tumbel, actually, chapter 13.
So everything began in Egypt, where the sorcerers and the gardeners now were living in Egypt. And then the Passover came. The final day was the death of the Passover.
Yes.
But for the history of the Jewish, it included all firstborn animals. But this was just the firstborn son.
Yes. And remember, all these things should point to Jesus.
How is that why?
Yeah. The blood that they applied on their doorposts is what made them safe over the angel of death. The blood of Jesus, although people misuse that one, is for the forgiveness of sins. See your protection.
And the blood of the Passover lamb.
Yes. The lamb, the Passover lamb, yes.
The
So that, so much so, the same night the Jews were celebrating Passover is the same night Jesus started the Holy Communion. Sema, my blood I offer it to for the forgiveness of sins. The Last Supper. No. We can guess, but it wasn't said. At least here.
When the Muslim celebrate which is commemorating Abraham was sacrificing Isaac.
See Isaac, according to in Ishmael.
The holidays like for this, they were very close, and they always get Easter and
No. It will rather than the Juzi to celebrate. Easter ilikuwa nini? April tarehe 8.
Talking of season, not really specific calendar.
Yes. Sasa, the bad thing is, sasa you can't force that way. You can't force.
Islamic holiday just close to Islam.
Yes, but that is not for sacrifice. No, it's not for sacrifice. Even the son's sacrifice are different. Yeah, so you have to send that your story. So basically, Jesus, yeye ndio the Passover lamb. Na tunaambiwa hapo, I think in Corinthians ama Galatians, yeye ndio Passover lamb yetu. So hizi vitu zote bado, they should point to Jesus. All of us, we keep thinking sisi tulikuwa kwa camp ya Israel. Kama sisi tunafikirianga tulikuwa Goshen. But tungekuwa Egypt, sisi tungekuwa pia kwa mafans wanasafa. Maybe we were there, even our ancestors were there, ndio time walisema hapa tutoke tu sahi, wakaanza kuteremka huku wakikuja kwenda huku chini because of those judgments. Yeah. So I believe as we are looking at these stories, we'll learn freshly what the Bible we should have learned long time ago. A lot of Bible study actually is unlearning. Aya, tumalizie hapo. Sawa, Mike, tuombe.
Thank you for this study. I appreciate you for gathering us together just to study your word. We pray, Lord, that everything that we learned, Lord, that you're able to meditate on it, and also able to apply them, Lord. And also, as we need to depart, be with us, protect us, and guide us with Jesus' name.
Amen.
I'm not with that, but I think it's I don't know. And we have some casualties, deaths.
Yeah.
And also,